Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the Studio B Mindfulness in Challenging Times offering. We have been at it for 8 weeks. It is our 8th week of offering daily courses Monday through Friday, specifically catered to help support each of you through this COVID-19 crisis. And I've been reflecting on that a lot this week. I've been reflecting on how quickly the last 8 weeks have gone by. And I've also been reflecting on the fact that we're still in the midst of this in so many ways. And we will be for quite some time, I believe. In Pennsylvania, things are still on a stay-at-home order here. We have been on this stay-at-home order for 10 weeks. So we'll be going into our 11th week of quarantine. It has been incredibly up and down. So I have been working with these practices every day for support, and they have the importance of the practices cannot be explained in words. So I want you to know that we will continue to keep this portal open for each of you for the next 90 days so that you could absorb the teachings, so that you can come back to the practices that we've offered, the mindfulness meditation practices, the movement practices, the breathing practices, so that you can re-listen to Christine Keisinger and the wisdom that she offers in her Monday and Wednesday lectures, so that you could go back and re-listen to our special guests. We will keep this open for you, and we hope that you will take advantage of it. Know that I have been working with the practices for the last 11 years. It has been such an incredible journey. I think what makes me feel most excited about mindfulness in particular is that the more I know, the more I realize that I don't know. So there's this groundlessness to the practices, and there's a training in just working with that and just knowing and kind of anticipating that every now and again I'm just going to feel like the bottom completely drops out, and that opportunity to begin again and look at the practices in a new way and open to curiosity and questions and insights and just stumbling around sometimes. So I know that these practices will continue to unfold in beautiful ways. And I know that as long as I have a body and the breath is moving through my body, as I get older, and I could still lean into these practices as a refuge, as a sanctuary, as a space of comfort and solace and calm. And I've been thinking about the word steadiness, and I want to say something. The practices certainly offer a return to that. So we could find this space of opening and connection, this big sky mind space where things tend to just settle. But it doesn't mean that the thoughts still don't come. It doesn't mean that the worries don't rise up. It doesn't mean that the heart doesn't retract, it does. But when we have an experience where we're pulled away from a space that feels natural and authentic, a space that feels open and wide and full of potential and wisdom, when we find ourselves pulled away from that, we can return. And that's what steadiness, that's what kind of steadiness we find through this commitment of a long-term, consistent practice, a long-term daily practice. So let's begin for this last lesson, this fourth lesson in the steadiness series, this eighth lesson in our resilience training, our eighth Thursday lesson in resilience and steadiness training. What I thought I would do is just take you through kind of a snapshot of my own daily practice, so you could kind of have an experience with me of what it means for me to be consistent in my practices. So I'll be leading you through. Of course, I practice in the morning early, and so I've already had my practice this morning. Sometimes I will return to it throughout the day, especially in these crisis times. So these times where if I find myself just really caught up in the mind, caught up in the uncertainty, if I notice that I'm especially reactive, if I can't be present for my work or my children, I'll just drop back into this space. This is my practice space. As many of you know, our house has been under construction, so you've seen a lot of iterations of my practice space. But this actual space, used to be my office, this room, and it's our temporary bedroom. And this space that I'm in right now, this little corner of my home, of my world, is where my normal practice space is. So it feels really supportive to me to come back here and to sit and to drop into my breath and into my body and just return back to equanimity, to center, to wisdom, to belly. This is where it all happens. So I'm going to close the window. Unfortunately, we have a tree that's getting taken down. It has it is a tree that died and has a disease, so we had to take that tree down so that it didn't infect the other trees in our backyard. So I'm going to just close the window and then we'll get started. And certainly it's always a little more difficult to be working with sound, but as you know, normal life happening is often pretty noisy. So we're going to work with what we have today. So just sitting up nice and tall. Close your eyes. If you're more comfortable laying down, you could go ahead and do that. If you're more comfortable keeping your eyes open, just bring your gaze softly down and rest your eyes there. Just taking a moment to settle in, settling into your body just as it is. And just really noticing how the body is sitting. You might notice how your feet are touching the cushion or the chair or the floor or each other. Your ankles are crossed, noticing that. And this looking in, this feeling into the body, you can imagine turning the eyes inside and tracking down to these parts of you that we're naming. feeling the feet or imagining your feet from the inside out, feeling into the feet from the inside out. Notice the weightedness in the seat in your legs. And notice how you could bring your attention down and in. And also notice if that's difficult. And what does it mean for you to drop down and in to the body? You're probably noticing the sounds of life happening around me or around you. Noticing how that sense door of hearing can pull us away so abruptly. Just noticing the sense door of hearing. And then inviting those sounds to become a backdrop to this practice right now. So the sounds can just be there. Imagine just placing them behind you, this backdrop of hearing. Sometimes I like to imagine placing them on a shelf. And then returning back to the breath, back to the body, back in and down. Noticing how that sound has stopped for just a moment and how things open up for you. Try to stay in and down in the body. Now bring your attention into the breath, the natural breath, just as it is. And notice where you're noticing, where you're feeling the breath move in and out. And where do you notice that sensation of breathing most acutely? Where do you feel it? If you're having trouble, you might want to pause at the nostril, at the upper lip. You could also look higher up in the nose, perhaps where the breath turns down. There's the sound again coming into view. Notice how it feels to be pulled away from the breath. And notice if your body responded to that. So this open field of awareness. And again, placing the sound as a backdrop or placing it on the shelf and gently coming back Coming back to the breath, looking for the breath, noticing the breath. Notice the rise and fall of the chest and see how the breath feels right there. You might notice the collarbone breathing, the chest expanding. And then tracking a little further down, noticing the sternum, the heart center. And notice if you can access the touch of the breath right there, right below the sternum. Then dropping further down into the belly. You might notice yourself pausing at the diaphragm, lifting and dropping with the flow of the breath. See if you could really soften in the belly space. Soften in and down into the belly breathing. Softening the belly to open to the breath. Notice when you're pulled away, if that's happening for you. Notice if you get caught up in thoughts, in plans, in sounds, in sensations, whatever it is. However you're getting caught up, just notice. And gently, with kindness, turning back, returning to this steadiness inside. The breath moving in and out. The body breathing. The breath moves in, the breath moves out. Notice where you felt most connected to the breathing, to the breath moving, to the body breathing. Which part of you is calling? Where do you feel most connected? Soften your attention right there. The breath moves in, moves out. coming back. The breath moves in. The breath moves out. Pulled away. The breath moves in. The breath moves out. Where do you feel steadiness inside? Where is steadiness in the body? Where is steadiness in this very moment? Just name it or note it. Belly, seat, chest, wherever it is. Breath moves in, breath moves out. Gently return back. And just another minute here in practice. Noticing the quality of being in this very moment. Bringing your attention back into the seat. Again, noting this quality of being that's been cultivated in this practice. And when you're ready, simply dropping the chin down, hanging your head heavy, opening your eyes and welcoming the light back in. And then coming back into this virtual space together. So often my practice will end here. Sometimes it's just a meditation practice. Sometimes I'll include breathing practices before and end with some movement practices afterwards. And it really depends on how my body feels, what kind of movement I choose. I will typically stack the yin practice after. So maybe just one or two shapes, sometimes more if I have time, if I feel like my body needs more time in the shapes. My favorite yin yoga shapes are butterfly and sphinx pose and wide knee child's pose. I would say butterfly is probably my most consistent shape, along with sphinx and saddle pose is one of my favorites. But what I've been noticing lately, especially in this space of quarantine, is that energetically, I really need more movement practices. They keep me so much more balanced with the meditation practice. And that doesn't always mean a vigorous yoga sequence. It more often means working out with weights or going for a run or hiking in nature. I've found that just being outside right now is very supportive. So I want to encourage each of you to consider how you are right now and what energetically would feel most supportive for you. So if there's a lot of anxiety, for instance, a quiet yin practice, especially in a forward fold, would make more sense than a vigorous practice. If you're feeling sluggish or lethargic or sad, if there's a lot of depressed energy in the system, a vigorous walk or run, just being out in nature could be the medicine that you need. So it really is important that you're just looking in and deciding for yourself what will serve you best in this very moment. So I'd like you to consider that for yourself today and perhaps just take a few minutes now for a practice that feels appropriate. I want to thank each of you for joining us week after week, day after day, whether you're joining us live. Many of you I know are logging in afterwards, perhaps in the evenings after work has settled. I want you to know that we appreciate you, and this time together has been so important for all of us. It is precious time that I will never, ever forget. We are here for you. So if you have questions, again, we will be keeping portal access open with no charge for the next 90 days. If you have questions, please reach out. You could reach us directly through the portal, or you could reach out to us through social media or through the website. Again, my name is Jennifer Saramboli, and I'm so happy to have spent this time with you today. And I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.